All right, in this lesson, I'd like to take this calculate brightness calculator that we did with alert and prompt, and I'd like to also get rid of those alert and prompt boxes and stuff like that, and change it so that it uses the GUI, right? The HTML, the web page. So, okay, yep, here's my alert and prompt stuff. And again, let's start by doing this. Hold on. Open this up. Open this up. Let's actually just start with the HTML. I already have the HTML. That's awesome. Okay, yeah, so we had done the HTML, but then we just wrote the JavaScript to not use the HTML. We got our button here. So let's start with the event listener on our button. Again, I just like to do BTN. If you have more than one button on your page, obviously you have to be more specific, but there's just the one. So in here, let's start with our event listener on the button. So documents.getElementById, BTN, add event listener. I love the autocomplete. We're going to click, and let's just have a function called BTN clicked. Because the job of this function is to process, hey, the button was clicked, what am I going to do? And we define that function called BTN clicked so that when this button is clicked, it'll run this function. So let's take this stuff and put it inside of here. Save that. Prettier does all the indentation stuff for us. Thank you very much. And, oh, I'm not going to forget this time. We're going to go to our HTML. And, oh, it's already the defer is there. Okay, good. Okay, let's go live. And hopefully, all right. Okay, nothing happened. I'm going to open up my console because that's just a good idea. I'm zoomed in a bit here. Let's reset. That's big enough, I think. Okay, so nothing happened. That's good, right? Because nothing should happen until I click the button. And then when I click the button, it'll run this code. Let's try that. Yay! Okay, 255, 0, 180. The brightness is this. That sounds reasonable. Okay, so again, let's start off by changing this output here. Luminance equals 0. And in this case here, there's a couple of things I could do. Yeah, well, let me show you this. What I like to do, oh, I even did the span tag here already. Okay, so in the past examples, we just set the inner HTML of the entire paragraph, which we could still do, right? I could set the inner HTML to be luminance equals, then I insert whatever the brightness is. But I don't mind having on the page this luminance equals, and then we'll just update this number. We can just keep this text here all the time. So yeah, let's just give this span an ID of output. And I'm going to change the, wow, seriously, lots of announcements. I have to pause again. Anyway, we're getting we'll set the inner HTML of this span element to be the brightness, just the number, right? We don't have to build a big message. We're just going to output the number. So we'll save that. Hello, you awake? I hit Control S, there we go. And instead of this alert, I forgot what I called it already. Oh, just output, right? Output. So we'll do that awesome document.getElementById command where we give it the ID. So this actually gets that span element. And then I want to access the inner HTML of that span element, and I want to assign it to be whatever is inside of my variable called brightness, right? So it'll set that output to be that. All right, this should work. Click this, 0, 0, 255. And the luminance or brightness is 86. Cool. Okay. Next thing I need to do is get, instead of doing the prompts, let's get these input elements, right? And I can just set the values here. So to do that, oh, I even have IDs in here. Okay, I can't remember if I added that later or if I did it in the video where I made it with you guys. But anyway, these input elements need IDs. So RN, GN, and BN, right? R, G, B. Awesome. So all I have to do here is, oh, remember this plus sign? Okay, that's going to be important. Actually, I'm going to get rid of the plus sign. We're going to replace everything here, but remember that plus sign. I'm going to do documents.getElementById RN So that gets that input element with the ID RN, and we access its value attribute. And then its value will be stored inside of this variable, okay, which I then use in the calculation. And oh, you know what? The plus sign isn't as important here because we're not adding JavaScript. So when we get the value of the input element, or when we do prompt, it always returns a string. And then remember when we tried to add strings together, it didn't work. Here we're not adding this string to anything, we're multiplying and doing exponents. So JavaScript will convert it to a number for us. But it's still good practice to put that plus sign in front just to make sure that, hey, this is supposed to be a number. Okay, and then we'll do the same similar thing here. Documents, I'll get on by DGN. Whoa, I got quotation problems, gn.value. And one more here, RGB.value. Okay, so we're just getting the element, getting its value, that's whatever is inside of the input element, converting it to a number with that plus sign, and then storing it into these variables. Then we do our calculation and output the result. This should work. So we'll change this to 255, 255, 255, calculate luminance, and it's very close to 255, but not quite. Anyway, and let's make this 0. That should make it less bright. Sounds good. Make this 0. It's less bright. Make this 0. It's 0, etc. Cool. So we can input our values here, and then when we hit this button, it gets those input values, stores them in variables, does the calculation, outputs the result. All right, one last thing I can show you is this does all these decimal places, right? It doesn't round it off. There is an option, let me do it in the console here. If you have a number, let's just store it in a variable. Let's say let num be assigned 43 point blah, 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 blah. If I go num.toFixed, and I can specify a number of decimal places, it'll take that number, round it off to 2 decimal places, and then return it as a string. So it's mainly used for output. Right? So if I did 3 decimal places, you should notice that the 4 gets changed to a 5, right? Because it gets rounded up. I could go to 0 decimal places, and it would just round it off to that. So I'm going to suggest we just do 0 decimal places. I think if I don't put anything in, yeah, the default is 0. So I could go here, brightness.toFixed, and then just leave it blank, or put the 0 in, whatever. And that should now give me the 255. If I do this now, right, it'll round it off. Remember before it was the 254 point blah, 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 blah. Now it just rounds it off. Okay, let's go 4 and 180, and it just gives me the rounded value. Okay, cool. All right, I think that's it. Input, process, output. We're just getting the input from the input elements now, and we're just outputting by setting the inner HTML of something on the page so we can see it. No more pop-up windows, yay! Okay, hope that made sense. Take care, and we'll see you in the next video.